Dr. Santhosh, thank you once again for coming on the AMA with Dr. Santhosh Babu, the Ask Me Anything. It's a pleasure having you back.
Thank you. Same there, Krupa.
So we have collated a set of questions from participants who have wanted to ask you clarifications. These are people who are gunning for the 2022 exams. And the first question that people have for you is being proficient in English a criteria to do well in prelims and mains?
Yeah, and this is the most often asked question. Obviously, it helps knowing in the English language. But then the UPSC offers all candidates the opportunity to take the exam in the language of the preference, which comes in the as per the constitution. So you could take the exam, but you have to give your preference in the mains itself. Prelims is obviously in English and Hindi only. But when it comes to mains, you could take it in your language. If let's say it's in Tamil, you could take it in Tamil. I'm not talking about the language paper. I'm talking about the optionals and the general studies. So that thing is there. And the other thing is that you could give your preference for interview also in your local language. So I think it's more about communication rather than language. So they're looking for a person who is steadfast, who is hardworking, who is disciplined, and that does not come with language. Proficiency in English is definitely an advantage, but that doesn't preclude you from taking the exam in a language of your preference.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. So while I line myself to ask the next question, I want to welcome participants and feel free to ask any questions. If you have, please leave them in the chat box and we'll curate and we'll ask it on your behalf. Next question, Dr. Santhosh, is age a major criteria in selection for IAS officers post?
See, the UPSC gives you the option to try 6 times if you're an open candidate up to the age of 32. Then other backward castes are 35 and 9 attempts, and scheduled castes and scheduled tribes up to 37 and no restrictions on the number of attempts. So the earlier, the crux is that if you have a degree in hand, and let's say that you are 21, then you can definitely attempt. But generally what is seen is people who have experience working in the private sector, etc., definitely stands a better chance because they have the experience of having worked under leadership or having led organizations, etc. So they will definitely have an edge when it comes to an interview. But it's a level playing field. Definitely, if you are trying hard enough, even at 21 or 32 or 35 or 37, it's a question of how much you're willing to put that hard work behind you. So it doesn't really matter, according to me. In fact, Topper was, I think, around 30 or 31 years of age when he quit his job in a bank in Hong Kong and then came and wrote the examination and topped India. And I myself know of a dentist who at the age of 30, her name is Mitali Seth. And incidentally, she was the President's Gold Medal winner in the probation period. And I was in the interview board as chairman for her interview, in the mock interview. And I was asking her what was the reason which prompted her to take the exam at 31 years of age. She said, I did try last time, sir. But, when I came to know about the examination, about what it offers to a graduate like me, I had no clue earlier why that a dentist could try, or, I had the ability to do that. But, having topped the examination in medicine, etc., somebody prompted me, my parents prompted me to take the examination. And here I am before you, and I'm appearing. And she got instantly the 10th rank. So age is not a factor at all. It's your hard work, it's your ambition, it's your ability to put behind stress and everything and come up trumps.
Thank you, Dr. Santhosh. AJ, you had an interesting question. Please unmute yourself and ask Dr. Santhosh Babu, please.
Yeah, this is AJ is asking how to prepare and cover the syllabus. Which books should I reach? Is it okay if I follow the test series? Yeah, the there are a number of academies offering test series and classroom sessions and online sessions like us. Capstone IAS Academy is one academy which offers online courses. So test series is one, but more important than that is to cover the syllabus. So you have, let's assume that you have the privilege or the luxury of having the ability to stay at home. Your parents are saying, "Beta, you stay at home and you study." Then nothing like it. So if you have that luxury, then I think you should, as I keep saying, you should have around 17 hours at your disposal, of which if you should be able to have around 12 hours unconditionally available for the preparation, and out of the balance 5 hours I think you should be spending for exercise and stuff like that. But 12 hours uninterrupted, if you have at your disposal, nothing like it. That's the time how you divide the examination into the prelims and the mains. If you're starting preparing now for, let's say, the 2022 prelims examination, then obviously you don't want to spend 12 hours studying entirely for the prelims. You'd want to, you'd have preferred some thought, some optional in your mind, and you would have, scanned the horizon, scanned the syllabus, etc., and you would have decided that, this is the best optional for me under the circumstances. So you would obviously want to give a little more time for the optional also, although the prelims does not cover the optional. But once you clear the prelims, then you have very little time to clear the optional. So preparing this 12 hours is very, very critical. And if you're a working professional, then you have very little time, which means you're studying in between your work, or you're spending around 6 hours when you're traveling and reaching home, etc. But whatever it is, whatever is the time available, then you need to budget that time. That budgeting is the skill that aspirants require. They think that they have all the time in the world, but every second, every minute, every hour is ebbing away. And we are reaching the June 22nd or June 2nd when the preliminary examination happening. So staying within the syllabus is critical. What happens is, during my times and all, we used to go to the libraries, etc. But now you have so much of information that you can Google and find out that, you go after one after the other. So on a small subject, you may take a hyperlink and the next go to the next hyperlink, etc. That's not required. In a preliminary examination, what is tested is between 6th and 12th standard NCERT textbooks and little extra that you can, garner from the newspapers, etc. So you just need to stay the course, read the newspapers cover to cover, read your syllabus cover to cover, and stay within that. And test series are very, very interesting. We have tied up with Excellon. Capstone IAS Academy is tied up with Excellon, which is an academy which is, graduated out of the Madras IIT Research Park. And they have come out with an artificial intelligence-based test series, which will kind of tell you where you're strong, where you need to put a little more effort, where you're weak, etc. And when you take the test, this will give you a dashboard, which will tell you exactly where you stand at this point in time. And then you keep improving on those areas. So if you can go to capstoneiasacademy.com, you'll find the link to Excellon, and you also get a discount if you use our code Capstone. So preparing confidently, and important thing is, don't tell anybody that you're preparing. Don't tell friends, don't tell neighbors. Let be a surprise when you get it. Second thing is that don't get distracted. See, the mobile phone is the most beautiful invention man has ever done, but it can also be the most distracting. So, but you need to see the news, and you need to communicate with your friends, etc. But always, restrict it. So there are a lot of sacrifices that you need to make, a lot of mental sacrifices that you need to make before you actually take the plunge. So my advice would be that if you're not serious about it, if you think that's a halfway approach, then I would seriously request you to abandon the approach, because you're neither here nor there. If you're going to take this exam, take it with the full heart and, the full soul invested in it. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve. But as you asked me about the syllabus is very clear about general studies, paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, essay, and all those things you need to prepare. So one of the things I keep telling all the candidates is, the essay is also very critical. So if you can read one essay per day, that should do. So you would have read 365 essays in 1 year. So that's the way you prepare. And CSAT questions, don't leave it, because you might be an engineer or might be a doctor and say that, getting 33% or 35% is not a big deal for me. But then a lot of engineers and a lot of doctors and a lot of professions have lost because they would have cleared the general studies paper, but they didn't clear the CSAT. So maybe doing around 10 CSAT questions would put you in that groove, as it were, because it's not about English, it's not about mathematics, it's about general understanding and trying to come to a decision. And the answers would look similar to you. And unless you're trained to look at the nuances of it, you might miss on it. So these are the things that you need to prepare, do before you plunge into this exam.
Thank you, Dr. Santhosh. The next question lined up is, how much in-depth knowledge should one have on economics in order to relate with Indian economy?
Yeah, so see, most of the candidates who appear for this examination have absolutely no clue about economy. They would not have studied except during their 6th standard, 12th standard NCERT basics, or they would have read Economic Times. That's about it. When those who have done BA Economics or MA Economics or stuff like that, obviously have a huge advantage. But that doesn't detract you from, going through the basics of microeconomics and macroeconomics, which is very simple. You need not go through what's called the mathematical equations, etc. But you should know what is a national income means. You should know what subsidy means. You should know the basics of that. And going through the Government of India websites on the different departments, how they apportion their funds and how these apportioning in the parliament, etc. happens. Then you also get a clue as to how the country is performing economically, etc. So microeconomics, macroeconomics, you can actually learn during the general studies classes that even a Capstone IAS Academy offers. You even have excellent professors sitting exactly opposite you and who would be extremely happy to teach you economics, because it's a tough one, but it's not a non-negotiable. It's not difficult to negotiate it. I will not say it's an extremely easy subject to deal with, but it's about theories, etc. But you can train yourself in economics. There's no doubt about that. You need to have a working knowledge of economics to attempt this examination.
Thanks for answering that question. So Bhavesh, one of the participants, has a question for you in the chat.
Bhavesh is how to start making notes. Is that the question that Bhavesh is asking?
Bhavesh, would you like to unmute yourself and clarify that question, please?
Okay, since Bhavesh is not coming online, how to start making notes? See, you have if you have the Hindu before you, you can read the Hindu just like anybody else plus, okay? Or you can read it a little more in a nuanced way and take down notes which matter to you. See, for example, Hindu will have the front pages of the city, then the second page will be regional, southern states or the northern states. Then you will come to the editorial portion where we'll be discussing general things. And, it's important to understand how you can take notes from there and read a little more of that, So what is the news today? One of the news today is about SpaceX carrying 4 astronauts to space, as space tourism. So how do you read about it a little more nuanced? What is the kind of spacecraft that they had? What is this, Soyuz, or what are the Americans? What are the spacecrafts that Americans did? So all these matter because, when it comes to the examination, you could think that it was a spacecraft called, Soyuz. But was it Soyuz 1? Was it Soyuz 2? Was it Soyuz 3? What are the nuance of it? That you need to put down in paper. It may not be available on the newspaper straight away. So now, since you have Google, you could add a little more value to it and keep writing. So put the date, read the newspaper thoroughly, cover to cover, take down notes wherever you think it matters, and add a little more note from Google. That would be enough. Just restricting yourself to the notes that is available in the newspaper will not suffice. We might have to add a little more metadata to it. So that's one. And for the general studies classes, when the teacher is taking, it's important that you take down notes. Third thing is you could listen to the new news analysis, etc. That's coming through videos that Capstone IAS Academy offers. Other IAS academies also offer. So I think I personally never took notes when I prepared. I was just reading and reading and reading. But everybody has a different style. If you're good at notes making, please do it.
Thank you for that, Dr. Santhosh. The next question is very relevant to what you just spoke about, which is on current affairs. The question is, what should be the strategy to ace current affairs for the upcoming prelims?
So if you're a quick quizzer, I mean, you would be slightly ahead of the race. But if you're not, it doesn't really matter. As I said, reading a couple of newspapers cover to cover is very important, and 2-3 magazines, India Today, for example, or The Economist. You should first know what are the stuff that you read. The Economist, National Geographic as a magazine, I think it's available, and Yojana. Yojana is about the Indian development schemes that come. It's a pretty boring magazine otherwise, but carries a lot of important things that you can use for the examination. So as I said, newspaper reading is very critical. Taking down notes from the newspaper is extremely critical. Then if you should leave a little more space for every news. Don't crowd the paper with the news items. If you leave a little more space so that, at some other point of time, if you want to add something to that, and if you're typing it, nothing like that. If you can always add to the, Microsoft Word that you have. But if you're actually taking down in hand, then I think you need to provide a lot more space there to add more data as it comes in. So everyday reading is critical. Everyday reading and taking down notes is critical. That's why I said 12 hours, if you can divide between 6 and 6 hours. And if in the 6 hours, if you can spend at least 2.5 hours for newspaper reading and taking down notes, that should be good enough. And second is general studies, the preparation is from 6th standard to 12th standard NCERT. So reading those texts and adding a little more value through Google would be a great idea.
Great. Excellent, guy. I'm lining up the next question up for you. How should an aspirant motivate themselves if they have failed before?
So as I say, failures as a stepping stones to success. There are not many people who have, completely zipped through success always. There are people who have failed and who have, put that behind them. But, you need to have that burning, ambition, the fire in the belly. That's critical, because why is this the toughest exam on earth? It's because around 10 to 12 to 15 lakh people write this exam. It's around 1.5 million people by American standards. That's quite a number. And for how many seats? Roughly around 800 to 1,000 seats. So the odds of you not getting in is more than the odds of you getting in, which means that the fight is tough. Now, you have to, read a lot of these inspirational biographies. That's why I keep saying, when you go to sleep at around 9:30, go with a biography in hand. That's at least what I do. I keep reading a lot of these big thinkers. Just read that, and you can see your energy levels flow up. So that's one, especially people who have come through adversities. Those are the people who have fought against all odds and come up. So inspiration has to come from somewhere. It can be from your immediate circumstances. It can be from an IAS officer who just cleared the examination despite all difficulties. In here, so many of these, anecdotal stories where came through extremely difficult circumstances, but they had that fire in the belly and cleared the examination. So spending time with them will be extremely good. Listening to motivating talks on YouTube, there are a number of that. You can listen to Shiv Khera, or you can listen to anybody who's a motivator, but please listen. But spending whole time listening to this itself is not a great idea. I think you should pep yourself up. Look at what your pluses are, what your negatives are. Pluses you need to enhance, negatives you need to suppress. So how do you come out of this? Unless you know and evaluate yourself, as a person, you will not be able to motivate. You should understand what motivates you. What is it that? Is it the country that motivates you? Or is it that, the red light on the car that motivates you? What is it that motivates you? I would personally think that it should be the ability to serve the country that should motivate you, and wanting to do something big for the country. If that's one thing that motivates you, go ahead and do it. If it's the pulse of the system, or the power that goes with it, you may need to evaluate that, because that should not be the really motivating thing. But looking around itself is a great thing. Looking around, there are n number of inspiring personalities out there. Just maybe want to listen to a TED talk per day. One TED talk per day. It takes around 12 minutes. I think, Kriba, it was 12 minutes that you gave me when I was a TEDx speaker. But I think anywhere between 12 and 18 minutes is all that you need to listen to make your day, right? And thinking positively, that positive vibes you need to bring in, that this exam is something which is easy, which I'll crack. Keep saying that, self-talking. I think that should do. I don't think you should, read too many of these motivational books, etc., because that will also waste your time. But listening to a TED talk, reading a book 3 pages, 4 pages per day should be good enough.
Thank you, Dr. Santhosh. By the way, your TED talk is one of the most popular ones from TEDx Chennai. So even after a decade, a lot of people remember that.
That's right.
The next one is from Anumod. He is asking about the importance and how to structure a revision plan.
Okay. So the assumption here is that you are going systematically. So being systematic is key for any revision. So revision is assuming that you have studied this first, and then you're trying to revise it again. That means steady note keeping, steady writing down the designing your day daily, saying that this is what you'll do this 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. etc. Dividing your time and budgeting your time is extremely critical for this. Then only you'll get the time for revising. So maybe tidbits of information every day when you write down on a paper in the morning, and if you can revise it, maybe spend half an hour in the evening, that should stay with you. And maybe after 1 month, again, try it out, whether you are able to remember it. Should do it. I don't think you should stress too much about revising, because anyways, you have to cover it 1 or 2 or 3 times. That's all time you'll get in 365 days. I don't think you should stress beyond that.
Excellent. The next question is someone who's struggling with trying to remember. So their question is, how does one improve their memories? Any tips?
Yeah. So when you're trying to by heart it, you will not remember it. That's a simple fact of the matter. When you're trying to understand it, you will remember it. The why, what, where of it, the many W's that you have. Now, if you can flip yourself around and ask those questions, what is the issue? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? What is the solution, etc. If you can go in that fashion, I don't think anybody can forget any issue. Many a time we are always trying to, read through it and trying to remember as a kind of by hearting. Trying to understand the issue in the way it has to be understood will make it, rememberable. I don't think there's an answer to it. Maybe reading two times, 3 times. See, for example, these theories in public administration, which I teach, it's very nuanced. Unless you understand the reason why the theory is out, the way the thinker thought, the way the others criticized it, you'll not be able to remember. So going to the root of the problem, trying to understand it, rather than being at a superficial level, would make you remember those issues.
Great. Thank you for that, Dr. Santhosh. The next question is something that you will definitely find it very familiar, Dr. Santhosh. Here's a person who has finished their MBBS, but their lifelong dream, this person's lifelong dream has always to be a civil servant, but a lot of people around them are discouraging him from shifting over. You being a person who has done exactly that, what would be your advice?
See, you should do what your heart says and not what others say. Yeah, that's all I can say here. Because that's a huge investment that you're making. Becoming a doctor is not a joke. There are a number of people aspiring to become, clear the NEET exam and become a doctor. The only problem with that profession is that you have to do your MBBS, then you have to do your PG, then you have to do your super specialty. It's a never-ending process. I remember, when I was around 45, 46, there were still people writing for the PG exam and super specialty, etc., because they are never satisfied with what they get as a degree. So having invested in MBBS, obviously the parents are also worried. Lots of people are worried, what you'll do next. So why do you want to waste, 5 years of, studies and money, etc. But, if it's in you that you have leadership skills, that you always dreamt of leading, you could be a good leader, doctor also. But, the canvas here is much bigger. If you think that the canvas is, your canvas has to be much bigger, then being a doctor would be, sufficient enough. But it's not the thing that you want. But I would say, listen to your heart. Don't listen to what others say. If you have the ability to clear NEET examination, you can always clear the preliminary examinations and main examinations as a doctor. Because they say, the doctors and engineers are the cream of society, lawyers, and all these are the cream of society. And they are the people who did really well in 10th standard and +2. So it's not a difficult thing to do, clear the examination. But if your heart is, there are many people who do this IAS examination, doctors who do the IAS examination, and they don't clear it in 3rd attempt, 4th attempt. Then what happens is they lose out on the PG. So that's a big worry. A lot of them have to, become juniors to their junior. They would have their juniors would have cleared the PG, etc. They still would have an MBBS. So there are these things that go on in mind. But I never had that thought at all. Always I wanted to become an IAS officer. So getting in was, then the question that is asked in the civil service interview also, why do you want to waste a government seat? My point is very simple. There's, always you should always have a fallback mechanism. If you don't get into the IAS or IPS or whatever civil service, there should always be a fallback mechanism. It's not as if you keep on, being at the back, getting support from the parents and peers, etc. Somewhere you have to say, okay, I'll start working. And for that, the MBBS is extremely useful. But listen to your heart. If you are a doctor who thinks that you have the leader in you, definitely you should try.
Thank you, Dr. Santhosh. The next question is from a parent of a 11th standard student. And the question is, what can I do to help support my kid to get a head start in preparing for the UPSC exams?
I would say 3 things. One is to make him feel disciplined, or the importance of spending time effectively. That's something which every parent can instill in their children. Second is to ask them to participate in quiz programs. I was a quizzer. I was an avid quizzer while I was at school. I used to be on air, All India Radio. I used to go to television, Doordarshan, etc. But the quizzes of those times were much, much easier. Straightforward questions. What is the capital of this country? But today it's much more very, very nuanced kind of, if you listen to some of those questions in the quiz programs. Siddhartha Bhatt's quizzes were the flavor of those seasons. But today's quizzes are much more nuanced. So if you can ask your child to take an interest in quiz programs, that will be very, very useful. But to create that interest, he needs to start reading newspapers to understand what the world is looking like today. Listening to BBC radio is another thing that the child can, as a child, I used to listen to BBC radio. Even today, I listen to BBC radio. With great difficulty, those times we used to get, the waves, the airwaves are very difficult sometimes. the BBC radio, but still I used to listen to that. So these are the three things I would suggest to a mother or father or parents of a 11th standard child who the parents want him to become an IAS officer.
Dr. Santhosh, there is a question in the chat section from Chaitanya, a 12th standard student. Could you help read out the question and answer it, please?
Yeah. In fact, no, it's Anumod has asked, what should I start? There's nobody called Chaitanya here?
It's a question that Rifaq has paraphrased.
Okay, 1 second. Yeah, myself, Chaitanya, I completed my 12th channel. I want to start my UPSC preparation so they can clear in my first attempt. I want a limited book list. Can you tell what books to read? No, I would not have a book list right now because, the books are straight away from the NCERT 6th standard to 12th standard. That's the basic book that you want to read. And plus the newspapers. So if you start, you have 3 more years to complete your degree, by which time you would have, so if you start reading newspapers and then read your, what's called the NCERT 6th standard to 12th standard textbooks, then if you are interested in polity, and right now I don't think you should be reading all those textbooks, right? You should be taking interest in the world. That's what I would advise anybody who is not done his degree yet, because you need to take an interest in the whole world around you. It's not as if you can straight away go and have a book list and start reading, and it doesn't happen. You have to feel the feel of the world. What the people in different parts of the world are doing right now. What is it that technology is engendering? What's happening in Afghanistan? What's happening in China? What's happening in different parts of the world, etc. This interest, you can't create that interest just 1 year before the examination. You should start, for example, I used to conduct programs in school where we used to discuss what's happening in the Cold War. For example, what did Brezhnev say on the SALT treaty, strategic arms limitation talks. I used to organize these small programs, and maximum 3 or 4 people would be interested in the class. They would come and listen to me, and we would start discussing, etc. But I started much early. But if you're in the 11th standard, 12th standard, etc., this is the best time to start reading newspapers in a more nuanced way. Not start reading textbooks. I don't think you will relish it, because even while you're preparing, these textbooks are a headache. But if you start reading newspapers, it will engage you, and start participating in quiz programs, or just being an audience in the quiz program itself will whet your curiosity on certain subjects, certain areas. So that's what I would say. I would seriously not give you a list of books unless you want to see the books around me. I have a lot of books here on Indian polity, on geography, on all these textbooks are there. I wouldn't give you a list right now.
Thank you for that. There's another question from Anumod, this time an additional question on current affairs. From current affairs perspective, is compilations provided by various coaching institutes sufficient to cover current affairs?
No, I think your compilation, your personal compilation will be the first preference. And then you match it against the compilations of various institutions and see whether you're lacking in that. If that's superior, then of course, you can take it up. But I think nothing comes, free in a sense. You have to do that hard work. For example, 10, 20, 30 people are sitting and, taking down notes and putting it up as the academy's notes. That's around 30 people putting it for you. But, you put that effort first time, every day, unfailingly. I mean, that will have qualitatively much better impact than others doing it for you. Because anyways, these are all available on in the newspaper, etc. But what are they doing? They make capsulizing it. Is that good enough? I'm not sure. I would seriously say that you prepare your own stuff and compare and contrast it with the compilations from other academies.
Thank you, Dr. Santhosh. The last couple of questions is, I finished my engineering degree. Will it help in preparing for UPSC exams? I think what the question really means is does doing an engineering degree, a BE degree, is it an added advantage for UPSC?
The UPSC does not think like that. The UPSC thinks that there should be a level playing field. So it can be a BA zoology or a BA psychology or BSc psychology, or it can be English literature. Anybody who has done a degree is all the UPSC is asking. So having done engineering, and if there's a particular subject that you're good at, and that subject is part of the optionals, 46 optionals that UPSC offers, that definitely gives an advantage. For example, it's a physics, or you're taking mechanical engineering, etc. Then I think it offers an advantage. But then there's a leveling of that happens in the UPSC, because nobody should get an undue advantage. That's what UPSC thinks. Forget all that. I think just the fact that you are holding a degree should be good enough for you to start. Don't compare contrast with anybody else. Just go with that single-minded thought that you are going to clear the civil service examinations. There are people who have done BA English literature and who does better than you, who may do better than you as an engineer. So there's no telling who is where. They would have taken purposely BA English literature after doing extremely well in the +2. That's because they would have wanted to become a journalist, or they would have wanted to go in a particular direction. And they have the gift of the gap and the ability to communicate well, etc. So I don't think you should consider yourself as having an edge over others, except the fact that you are extremely highly motivated. That should be your edge, and that will take you places. Rest of things are equal for everybody.
And the final question for the day, Dr. Santhosh, is from Saravana Kumar. He says, I have made an attempt and failed. I believe I didn't do well because I tried preparing on my own. Now I realize the importance of taking professional help. So his specific question is about Capstone. How can I get more details? How can I join Capstone IAS Academy?
First of all, I don't think you should say you failed. You tried and you stumbled. I don't think it's a failure. Not getting on the first attempt, there are so many people like me. This is my second attempt that I got in. So it's not a failure. But that should motivate you to achieve. So that should become the burning fire in your belly to make you achieve. So there are a number of academies. So we have our Capstone IAS Academy is completely online. There's no physical academy as yet. God knows, we may think about having a physical academy later. But these days of the COVID, etc., the new normal, things are doing much better with online stuff. So why waste money, time, etc., going and traveling to an academy and coming back? You can use our portal, www.capstoneiasacademy.com. See, the advantage that we have is the quality of our teachers, our educators, because they have been doing it for 10, 15 years for the last, and teaching in many different academies. They're some of the most experienced lot. So if I were to ask them to come to Chennai and start teaching, it will be extremely difficult to get those kind of calibered teachers or educators. We have some of the best in the country, and that I would say is our USP. We have selected, we have scored the whole country for good educators and settled down on these 10, 20, 22 teachers that we have, educators that we have. So do go to our website, www.capstoneiasacademy.com. There are many IAS officers, IPS officers, IFS officers, IRPS officers who are part of our faculty, who would be, for example, I would be teaching public administration. Shashikant Senthil IAS 2009 batch, 9th rank holder. He also quit the service. He teaches psychology. Then there is Mr. Surya Prasad IPS, who quit the IPS at 45 years of age, wrote the CAT exam, topped the CAT exam, and went on to become an entrepreneur, etc., etc. There are a number of inspiring stories here of teachers or educators who are there. And one of the things that we do is also add a lot of value in terms of value education. because we are not here just to say make a lot of money or anything through this IAS Academy. We are here to bring out the best in you. So I have always believed that there is a commercial aspect to it, but more than that, there's a social aspect to it, to bring leaders. Because I've seen in the IAS, people come into the IAS and lose sight of what they were originally supposed to do. That is to serve the country, and serving without conditions. An unconditional love for the country is what should propel you into the IAS. Once you get in, you should not be. So I feel that it's my duty, having spent 25 years in service, to bring out people with core values. And I think that's our USP.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Santhosh, for motivating and inspiring us. The entire recording of Ask Me Anything with Dr. Santhosh Babu IAS will be available on YouTube for posterity. This is a continuing regular series that happens every Sunday at 2 p.m. So once again, on behalf of everyone, Dr. Santhosh, thank you so much for taking the time. And for all the participants and listeners, whether live or you're watching it recorded, thank you so much for your interest again. Please visit capstoneiasacademy.com for more details. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Krupa. Thank you, Anumod. And Anumod is a regular visitor. So I hope you go ahead and achieve it this year or next year. This year, Anumod, are you taking this exam this year?
Yes, sir. I'm taking the exam.
Good.
But my preparation is all based on 22. I've filled the form and I'm preparing, but the entire preparation is based on.
Definitely taking a shot this year.
Yeah, I'm taking.
Yeah. But do it seriously, because the age.
Yeah, I'm doing. Yes, I'm doing it seriously. But what I think is that there are some things which I'm lacking, so I'm trying to cover it. But the entire preparation is based on 22. So that's how it's going.
You should know that around 12 lakh Anumods, just like everybody is normal. There's nothing. You are brilliant. You are good. So I think you should take that huge shot at it this year also. So my best wishes, Anumod. God bless.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, and thank you for this session. It just motivates me, and it just helps me to give my best shot for the civil services, and it has become a passion. So that's how it's going. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
God bless. Bye. Thank you, Krupa. Thank you, Nisha. Rifat. God bless.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.